Welcome to an incomplete guide to world domination, a podcast by creators for creators, because together we can take over the world. I am your host, Brianna Toiber.
My name is Kelsey Coffman. I am an associate producer at Other Ocean. For those that don't know, Other Oceans, they work for Hire Studio, and we did just release our game Medieval on the PS4. So for those old-time fans. When I'm not working at my day job, I am a co-founder of the SF Bay Area Women in Games, also known as BA Games for short, because it's a pretty long name to say it. And I also, I'm also a Twitch streamer known as Lightning Cloud, and on Twitch it's Lightning Cloud _. And that's pretty fun. I'm hoping to do more with that. I'm a Twitch affiliate on it, and I'm also working on a virtual reality game on the side called Tornado Tower.
That's a lot of fun stuff. And going back to the beginning a bit, you said when we were talking on Twitter that you didn't have a whole lot growing up.
Growing up where I did, it wasn't tech savvy. Majority of people that I've seen, they either become teachers or they maybe do jobs like at Bath and Body Works or Best Buy. I think the only closest thing to video games was a GameStop or Best Buy. And my family itself, my immediate family, my parents, they're all teachers, even so my grandparents are. And I was the only one that out of my immediate family, my siblings, that really wanted to go into something tech, like into video games. And that was kind of hard because, well, my parents couldn't afford too much. We didn't grow up as the richest, but I think given the circumstances, my parents really made sure that they did the best they can, like any parent would. So we probably didn't have the most fanciest computers or TV. A lot of our consoles, I know we had to kind of wait. I know we were given a PS1. I think eventually my dad bought a Nintendo 64. We didn't get a PS2 until I think 3 or 4 years after it was released. And I don't even know if I think someone else gave us that too. It's kind of expensive. But I would say, given the best circumstances, my parents, made sure that we still had a fun childhood and everything. But yeah, it wasn't a lot. I know our neighbor, our best friend at the time with my sister, her and I were friends with this kid named Carol, and she was the only child, and we'd always play all the cool newest stuff over there because her parents always got her the brand new stuff. Other times, I would say when going to school, you can kind of tell a little difference when you grow up not as wealthy as others.
You really can. I grew up in a small town in Tennessee where I don't even think we had a GameStop.
Oh, yeah.
Everything was all about science and technology. I 100% blame the fact that the town I was from was a town that enriched the uranium for the atomic bomb as part of the Manhattan Project.
Oh, wow. The Manhattan Project? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And most people don't know about it because it's a small town in Tennessee. You blink, you miss it, but that's where I'm from. I got to see some family not this past Thanksgiving, but the year before that. And I was just talking to my cousins, and none of them are gamers. They don't read a whole lot. And I'm just sitting up here how? It's how? How am I the only person in this group of people that's a nerd?
I could totally relate to that. So because now my family was tech savvy, that's the best way to say it. None of them went to computer science. I remember when I wanted to do this, there was in high school or in junior. Actually, the first time I decided to become anything within the game industry was I was 12 years old, and I used to read this magazine called Game Informer. I still get them today. But there was this cool article, and I think the person that was in the article, she was a USC professor, and I think she was the one that made the game design workshop book. I'm trying to remember what her name was, and I feel so bad. But I remember I was reading an article in Game Informer as a 12-year-old, and she pretty much was given an interview by Game Informer, and they kind of asked her, how do you teach people to make games? And one of the things she brought up was that to make a game, first she does in her classes, she makes everyone do a solo project all by themselves, see what they can do. And then a few weeks later, she comes back to them and she pretty much kind of proves them it was pretty hard, to make that game. And she was trying to point out that you can't really be making games without by yourself unless, without help. And she was explaining how having teamwork would be a big deal in game development, and if you can't work with others, don't go into the industry. That's kind of like what I got from it. It's not that it's impossible to make a game by yourself. There are people that do it. It just takes a lot longer, or maybe they aren't as nice, as polished up as some people would like if you do it by yourself. If you don't, because you don't know every aspect. But she was pretty much saying that you want to go in the game industry, you need to know how to work with others. And me, as 12-year-old, I worked pretty well with others, I thought, and I thought it was just so cool that someone taught video games. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. So as a 12-year-old, I'm like, I'm going to go to University of Southern California. I'm going to USC.
That happened?
Well, no, but as a 12-year-old, I'm like, I'm going to do that. Except it was a private school. And, I remember even telling my parents and my family that I wanted to go into video games. As I think in high school, I was kind of thinking about it. And they kind of thought it was like a phase, like, okay, it's like, yeah, she likes video games, but, is this, like, are you sure you really want to do that? And you can't blame them, like blame them on that. It's just that video games at the time, it wasn't looked as it is now being part of that industry. I think back then people were like, okay, you play video games, you want to make them, all you do is just play them, right? They didn't think it was a hardcore industry like it is today.
It's always been a hardcore industry. It's just people are slowly starting to take it more seriously.
That I have noticed. At least from my perspective, I've noticing that it's definitely getting more respect, I think. Not that there's anything bad in the game industry, too. I think every type of industry has their good and bad. But one of the worst moments, I shouldn't say worst, but one thing that happened at college was I decided to go to community college. When I was in high school, I wanted to transfer, but I didn't feel comfortable enough that I was going to make it into USC or any university. Even though I really did try and push myself. I was the first time in my family to go to calculus, and I remember in high school, I flunked that test, and I felt so terrible. And I'm like, how can I apply to colleges if I, got a D in calculus? So I decided to go to community college called Bakersfield College. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do math here and everything. And I'm going to do my best and do the general ed that might be required for USC. So I go to my counselor at Bakersfield College, and the gentleman there, he looks at my credentials, my transcripts. He kind of asked me, he's like, where do you want to go? I said, I want to go to USC and do their video game program. When he looks at my transcripts, looks back at me and looks back down, and looks back up at me again and says, that's a lot of math and science, right? And I look at him and I said, yeah, I know. Put me down for the classes. Like, this dude already doubted me. He was thinking he was trying to make it sound like I couldn't do it the more I was talking with him. And I didn't like that. So after that meeting, I just told myself, like, I'm not going to have him to help me. I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to figure out the general ed, then I'm going to do what I have to do. Was I not taught how to program like other kids did when they were a lot younger? No, but I'm going to try. I remember someone else did tell me that when I said, like, I really want to go to video game, they were all like, you know nothing about computers. Why would you even go into that? And I said, well, that's why we go to school. We go to school to learn, and I'm going to learn how to make games, and I'm going to learn how to use a computer more. And that's what I did. I remember I had to look up the requirements for USC by myself, and then about 2 years in, I went into the MESA program, which is at Bakersfield College. It kind of helps mechanics, engineers, science, and I think the A stood for art. I'm trying to remember. That was more of a STEM type of program, and they had their own personal counselor, and I went to her, and she knows that I actually did a lot of the general ed by myself. And I told her, like, I really want to go to USC if it's possible. And she's like, okay. And she's like, well, definitely you should think about other schools just in case. Have you heard about TAG from the UC TAG, which is Transfer Admission Guarantee? And I said, no, I haven't. And she tells me, here's some schools that might have video games in it. Maybe you should check that out, because Transfer Admission Guarantee means if you pass all your general ed that UC requires, you're guaranteed admission in it. I'm like, oh, okay. So to be safe, I, looked it up and I saw UC Santa Cruz. I'm like, this is kind of nice. So I do apply just in case. I also applied to USC at the same time. Yeah. So I'm still trying to go into this private school. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, it's like, it's like, can we tour these colleges? I really want to tour USC and UC Santa Cruz. And to my dad, he thought like, yes, that's awesome. And for USC, my dad's mom and sister and me, we went to USC and we went on the engineer tour, and it was so cool. And I was like really fascinated. And one, even though it doesn't have natural beauty, its architecture made it very beautiful. And I don't know if anyone knows, but I think they have a great architecture program. And just looking at these old buildings and the detail they put in the art in them was amazing. And going to the libraries. I love libraries. I just love when there's like an old book. Will I read it? Not always, but I just like the feel of the book. And I like the look of it. I don't know why.
Where I went to college, one of the libraries, like, it was the inspiration for the library in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh my goodness. So I love Beauty and the Beast. That's like my favorite movie from Disney. Oh wow.
That entire building is so pretty.
After the USC tour, my dad, he thought it was pretty cool that I went, and I thought it was pretty awesome, and I could see myself going there. But he did also come to me kind of like what the counselor said, because one of his teacher's friends, my dad was telling him, was like, yeah, my daughter wants to go to USC. And they were like, well, it's like, what if she doesn't get in? Does she have a plan B or a plan C? And he's like, I don't know. So he kind of talked to me after the tour, and him and I stayed a lot longer than my sister and mom. But he did tell me that it's still okay to look at other options. He said USC is great. If you get in it, he's like, that'd be awesome. But just to be safe, you should just check out other colleges and see if you can get in them too. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. Which then we took the tour at UC Santa Cruz. This one was just my dad and me. And the funniest thing was we went on this tour. Because they said your last name to announce if you're there, and they said Coffman. And me and this guy says here, and we look at each other and we're like, do you mean Coffman with a C or a K? And the guy's like, no, mine's spelled with a C, Coff. I'm like, so is mine. And we're like, no way. And we found we had the last name. And then we're thinking like, what if we're like cousins? That'd be so cool. We don't know if we're cousins or not, but it's very rare to find someone with the last name, but that was like the fun thing on tour. But anyway, so my dad and I toured in UC Santa Cruz together, and beautiful campus. Like, the buildings aren't the prettiest, I'll give them that. But each building is different because they have different districts or different they call them different colleges at UC Santa Cruz. I think they have up to 10 colleges. They might be making 11 and 12, if I recall. But every college was a little different with their own aesthetic based on what the meaning of their college was. And we saw that. But the nature of it, the beauty and the grand look of it, just on the hikes and just seeing the beach and the mountains. So the main campus is on a hill, for those that don't know, and the city's down below. So you feel like the college is separate from the town. But from the campus, you can see the ocean, and you're in this beautiful forest on a mountain. So I loved it. And we looked into this, and knowing me, I like to say I get my adventurous side from my dad a lot, because he's kind of spontaneous. He'll just go like, let's just go do something. And I'm kind of like that too. My mom is definitely more cautious. So sometimes if I get my cautious ways, that's definitely my mom's side. So I think being spontaneous and still cautious at the same time works for me. So that way I don't do something too crazy and fun. But I mean, I'll do something fun, but it's not too crazy. It depends on the circumstance.
Balance of things that lets you live life and keeps you from getting in too much trouble.
Yes, pretty much, yes. So at this campus at UC Santa Cruz, we go into Jack Baskin, and I was told on the 3rd floor is where the video game senior students are. So my dad and I decided to go up there, and I decided to knock on the door. And this lady had to show us, and where it was. And I just kind of want to knock because I said, can we go in? She's like, maybe if they let you. So I do knock, knock, knock. And this guy opens up, and, I kind of I said, hi. I said, can I check out the lab? And he's like, okay. So I kind of explained to him that I'm touring the school. I was really curious about the program. And they take me to this awesome lab. They have this huge red couch. I don't know if it's still there. They have lots of computers, game consoles, and they're like really studying, right? And they're kind of giving me feedback what UC Santa Cruz is and what they're doing and what classes they've taken. And I feel kind of feels a little stuck here because I really wanted to go to USC, but it wasn't as beautiful at UC Santa Cruz aesthetically, like naturally. But at the same time, I heard so much from USC being number one, and UC Santa Cruz, I think, was in the top 30s. I think it was 25 at the time in the entire United States. So I didn't know which one was better. Well, in the end, when I finally got back if I was accepted or not, I did not get into USC, and I was kind of sad. But I did go into UC Santa Cruz, and it was the only other college I applied to. Even though I did through tag submission, to me, doing all those classes, such as, physics, calculus, oh my God, those things are pretty hard. I'm not going to lie. My parents didn't know that high of level of math, not even science, so I would always stay at the tutoring rooms and get help from teachers. Like I had to do a lot, I remember, just so to prove myself that I can do this and learn it, because if none of my family members could help me, then I had to do it on my own if I really wanted this.
I definitely feel that because so my mom, she has epilepsy, which means for her she has dyscalculia,
Oh man, what's that?
which makes it hard for her to do anything to do with math and numbers.
Aw.
So, well, she would try and help me. She would try and help me with my math homework, and she was able to help sometimes, but I kind of had to figure things out on my own,
Oh yeah.
especially when I made the mistake of taking AP statistics.
Yeah.
That was a bad life choice. She said I would enjoy it and it would be fun. 2 weeks in, I'm like, Mom, you lie.
Well, I think parents have to a little bit to make us do stuff. But no, I would say I'm actually very happy I went to UC Santa Cruz. I think looking at back now, USC, their teams are very huge. It could go up to 10, I think to 40 people. Some people tell me because there's so much students in it. UC Santa Cruz, this program where you're normally on a dev team of 5 people. Maybe if you add in your artists and maybe extra help, it could get bigger. But normally it's a 3 to 5 person teams when I went to school there. And
I feel like you get a lot more out of that than you have out of a big group because it's so easy to get drowned out in larger groups.
yeah, so that was a good thing that I thought. You're more of an indie game dev style, but you have to do more stuff on your own. You don't have as much help, and it might take a lot longer, but you do learn a little bit more. At least that was my experience. And I know, like with my dad, because I do talk about him like taking him on these tours and stuff. He was the first person that really bought me my favorite video game of all time. He bought me The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time on Nintendo 64. I still love it to this day.
Nice.
It is the one game that maybe turned my liking to video games into loving to video games, because I kind of played it a little bit with my brother and dad because I wanted to do something with them. And when I would go to some of my friends' house, we played this little Barbie game where you kind of dress up your Barbie with her hair and on the computer put makeup on. It was kind of like typical things because people think like, oh, okay, that's a girl's game. So you play girls' game. But with my dad, he knew I liked video games. I used to be obsessed with Diddy's Kong Racing on Nintendo 64, and every time we went to the movie store to rent a game or movie, my dad would always ask. He'd say, okay, Kelsey, you want to pick a new video game? And I go back and I run Diddy Kong Racing and give it back to him. And he's like, we just rented this. And he's like, I know, but I want to rent it again. I have to play it again. And so I did this like for over a month. And finally, my dad saw, like, he went to the cash register because he saw I had Diddy Kong Racing again. I wanted to rent. And he just asked her, he's like, can I just buy her the game? Like, please. And so he bought the game and I finished it. But it wasn't the game that made me love video games still. Like, it's still a great game to this day, I believe. I don't know if anyone would ever play it, but that game needs a remake. But Nintendo's Ocarina of Time, from the Zelda series, was such a beautiful story. And to me, I thought it was amazing. I felt like a heroine in it. Even though I was playing as a hero, it made me for the first time. Well, how's the hard way to put it? Imagine an 8-year-old trying to hypothesize, like scientific stuff. And to me, I'm like hypothesizing the game a lot about, like, oh my gosh, who's Ganondorf? Is Link gonna do this? And I'll tell my dad, I'm like, Dad, here's my strategies, how I'm gonna like beat him, or how I'm gonna beat this temple in the game. And I'll just kind of talk to him because I'm so excited about the story in the game. I'm so involved with it that it was the turning point, I think, in my life was playing that game. And if it wasn't for that game that my dad got me on my 8th birthday, I don't think I'd be in video games today, because I would like them, but I didn't love them enough. And Ocarina of Time was the one game that made me really love it. And I think from that point forward, it helped me guide my way to where I am today, I think. Because I still think about that game to this day. I think a lot of its mechanics are still relevant. Its gameplay, its story. It's just such a beautiful moment in my life. And I kind of when I make games, I kind of want to make sure that that feeling I got with Ocarina of Time, I hope I bring that also to my players that will be playing my feature games. And it really means a lot because feeling that type of moments where you're just breathtakingly like shocked and you're just so mesmerized by it. And when you end a game like that, whether it's Ocarina of Time or one of your favorite other games, there's this, it's kind of like a lost feeling. You're like wow, that was a wonderful journey. I didn't want it to end. And so I'm hoping like my future games will also bring that type of feeling to players as well.
I know that feeling. Like all you need is that one thing that causes the spark, and then it's just you just can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's taken over your life.
Which it did. Which I go back to UC Santa Cruz. Here I am. I'm doing what a lot of people didn't think I could do, and I followed my dreams pretty much.
And you proved a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, a lot of people go to college, follow dreams, or maybe they feel like they have to. But to me, I felt like education was my way out of poverty. Because I kind of looked growing up. I'm like, my dad would used to tell us. He's like, do you like that house? Do you like that car you see? Do you like what she's wearing, or you see what's in that window? And I'll say, yeah, I really like it. And he's like, well, get an education. He said, education. The more skills you have, more educated you are, the better job you can have. And he too, when I was growing up, he was going to college while taking care of us. While my mom was taking care of us, my dad went to college and he did like truck driving. He used to work at Taco Bell. Like he did a really weird side jobs. He did anything he could to provide for us while still kind of shows an example like, hey, it's like, I'm going to go to college to give you a better future. And he did, he became a teacher and he's still a teacher to this day. And I'm really proud of him and I very much love him. And it was a pretty good example to show like how education can really help you. At least for my opinion, I feel like education helped me the same way. I don't feel like I have to work in the really other odd jobs I've had to work at before. I used to work at McDonald's, which, by the way, be nice to the people that work at McDonald's. Do you think they want to work there? They don't. It's a tough, yeah.
Be nice to all people in retail and in food service.
Yes, retail, food service. Be nice to everyone. They do it because they have to. It's a job. Most of the time, it's a job, not a career. So just be nice to them. They're making your food and getting your clothes in the back, right?
And most of the stuff you're yelling at us about is not actually our fault. Let's fast forward a bit to when you founded the San Francisco Bay Area Women in Gaming.
Yes, so this is when I'm in graduate school. So I just finished my undergrad. I did my capstone project on Seance. We went to Indiecade with that. We were also a 2-person team, I remember. So we were like the underdogs with that project. And because of Seance, I went into the graduate program at UC Santa Cruz, which is Games and Playable Media. It was a Master's of Science degree. And while I was there, I was working on a game called Tornado Tower for my capstone project. And I wanted to do Twitch streaming. And I thought, okay, what if I bring people from the outside of school? And I have some classmates play the game and I would Twitch stream it, but I wanted to make sure I had people outside. So I was in this virtual reality group called VR Women and Allies, I think it is. I think it's run by Eva Leon. But anyway, so I think that was a group where I joined, and I noticed someone named Katie Lee was on there. And I kind of said, I posted a post like, hey, would someone love to go on my Twitch stream for school? I would love to stream this VR game called Tornado Tower if anyone wants to kind of join and do like a cool QA stream. So Katie Lee responds and she's like, yeah, I'd like to do it. And she asked if she can bring her friend Nico. And I said, yeah, okay. Nico's a composer and a really good musician. He does projects today he's working on projects that are in VR games at Oculus and other contract work. So I meet Katie and Nico, and Katie, plays the VR game. I live stream it on Twitch, and she tells me what she's thinking. At the time, she was a QA at EA. And then afterwards, after the stream, she kind of talks about, she's like, hey, I kind of started up this group called SF Bay Area Women in Games, and, I'm trying to get more women in it, more people in it. So I get kind of curious. I'm like, yeah, I'd like to do this. And so I kind of check it out. I made sure to go to every meeting, and she would kind of do cool meetings in San Francisco and San Jose, and I really wanted to get more involved. So I kind of would tell her, I'd love to help out more. Like, maybe is there any positions I can be on? So I kind of started becoming like her right-hand person. And then after doing so much stuff with her, we went through the conference the first time with the conference. We did a lot of meetups. She began to kind of get busy. She kind of wanted to do like her own thing. And so she was leaving Sasha and me more in charge of the program, of not the program, but like the group. So I just initially took charge because I know what happens with groups. If you just stop being active on it and no one posts anything, no one does more meetups, it kind of dies. And a lot of groups can die that way, especially if one of the main leads goes away.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before too.
Yeah, so I didn't want that to happen. I really love the group. I love the community in it. I love the members in it. And I really wanted to, like, okay, it's like, I didn't have this growing up. I wish I had this when I was in college more, and there's other people that want meetups. So I said, okay, I'm going to keep doing this more. Now, Katie was definitely organizing maybe a couple of stuff, but I started taking charge of the meetups. I remember that. I started, this was a big one. When she did the conference, I remember the first time we did it was Twitch. Well, the conference is it's going into its third year. It'll be, it's called Women in Gaming. We're going to hold it at Glue on March 2020, I believe on the 18th. Anyway, so the first time Katie comes to me in a message, she says, hey, she's like, I want to make a conference. And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, that's going to be a lot of work. A conference, like.
How does one do that? Where do you begin with making a conference?
Where do you begin? I was like, what? Okay. And to me, I'm all like, that sounds a little crazy. That's gonna be hard. But Katie's my friend, and and I always love doing stuff. And I'm thinking, what? If Katie wants to try it, why not? Okay, I'll get on board. I'll do this. And her and I definitely ran that first conference. I would check on one of the side talks going on. I would kind of check on people doing like the mini game jam, and Twitch even gave free swag away to the people that went. And it was really fun. But again, Katie, I noticed was starting to get busy, and she was starting to get less active, and she kind of decided like, well, okay, maybe we'll just make you have you have a little bit more in charge of it. And I kind of wanted to. I did tell her how I really love this group, so if you feel like you don't want to be active anymore, I'll definitely take care of it and stuff with Sasha. So that's kind of I feel like that's been going on for the past year. When she went because she went out of the States and she was focused on her Storytime UX. I was also focused on the group a lot. And I make sure we kept up the monthly meetups. We started a board of advisors, and then I remember she did one meeting, but then I continued the monthly meetings on that. And now our board of advisors is helping us with the conference this year. A lot of communications I do talk to. I had to talk to Glue about the venue, and then Microsoft contacted us, and I'm talking to them. They really want to help with the conference. It's pretty exciting, and they're very excited about the conference. I was telling them how, I'd love to do an esports event, maybe more mixers, like something else. And Microsoft seems interested. I'm not going to say they're going to do it because, no promises, but they are definitely excited about an esports event and doing more things with us because they love seeing how passionate I am with this group and how much I really want to help others. Because the main thing about the group is, it's a fun place for people to sign up. I might post articles, but the whole point was if I can make sure to make events, if I can bring a platform for women and allies to bring their voices to the table and share their experiences and stories in games and tech, I feel like, I have done my job. I want to make sure I'm that stepping stone to help women and girls and allies that want to go out and do something. If they don't feel confident enough, it's well, let me be your stepping stone so you can step over the stream and get on the other side. Let me help you with that. And that's always how I've kind of been. It's great. It's a good feeling knowing if I help people. The conference last year was great. We did held it at Glue for the first time. Andrew Alcott was our main Glue person that would help us organize that. Glue donated, I believe it was $10,000 last year, and we made sure we had free breakfast, free lunch. We made sure the whole event was free. We had speakers from GDC coming in for free. We had some local journalists come in. We really tried to make this very great. We also worked with Wiggy, Women in Games Internationals. So Wiki, was trying to get started up here. They, I think there's a couple of people in it, but still, we wanted to help each other out. And this year too, I would hope to work with Wiki again to help them out again as well. Even though Ball Games isn't Wiki, I do want to help other groups, and I think it's a good thing, helping each other out.
Yeah, exactly. We're all working together. We're all trying to do the same thing, aren't we?
Yeah, pretty much. So this year I'm definitely excited for the year 2020. I'm excited for this conference. I definitely got excited being asked on the podcast here. I had an article recently about my streaming on Twitch. I'm excited to work with Microsoft and just other groups. I know Sacramento Devs. I think that's what their group is called. They asked me a couple months ago if I can come on a panel to talk about what I do as well in the group and what I do on the outside in games too.
That's exciting.
Yeah, because they saw this group, the Ball Games group, doing pretty well in the Bay Area, and they wanted to make like their own type of group for games, and because they didn't really have one, they said, and they really wanted to make one, and so they reached out to Katie and me, and Katie again was busy, and so she kind of said like, oh, you want to like see and chat with them. I said, yeah, of course. So. And again, I wanted to help them out, so I said, of course, I love to represent the group and everything, and I'll go on your panel. And it was really great. I'm glad I was able to help them like be on their panel, and they had a cool little showcase. Yeah, so cool things, and I think they even had like Extra Life there from like a cool booth. So I'm kind of hoping to reach out to Extra Life. Yeah, so I'm hoping I can reach out to them this year to see if I can do anything with the Ball Games group and then it's like I love to do an event. Just to me, like I would love to hold events that aren't just the Women in Gaming Conference. Like yes, that is beautiful and it's wonderful, but I think we still grow. Like I love to do an esports event to make sure women and girls feel comfortable to play esports with others. I would love to do more mixers. I would love to do more showcases where people get to show off their indie games, whether it's VR, AR, or non-VR, like more traditional 2D or 3D games. I love to do art and music showcasings because I know there are people in the game industry and tech that are huge audio people and also huge artists. And I feel like when we go to game showcases, a lot of times it's very much on the game and you meet like the developer, right? But not everyone gives credit, I think, to the artists and musicians for games or for audio as well. So I would hope in the future I'd like to kind of showcase them so they can maybe sell their type of art and like bring some interest or information on their side. I just want to reach out to kind of everyone, and which is why I love the Ball Games group so much is we make sure like you can be a student, an aspiring indie game dev. You can work in VR, AR. You can work at Google, or you can work at AAA companies as an entry level, or be a veteran in the game industry as well. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you love video games and you respect the community, then yeah, welcome aboard. If you're an ally as well. And I think that the hardest thing is in the game industry, a lot of women do feel like sometimes they, I don't want to say oppressed, but like it can be harder in some ways to do their job or maybe to get ahead while going up the ladder, I guess you could say. So for me,
it's a systemic industry issue that's been rearing its head, and people are starting to speak out about it more, which gives me hope for the industry because like it's something everyone faces, but it's something that happens in all industries, but it needs to stop, and it's not going to stop if we don't address it.
Yeah, I do see that more people are addressing it. I know Emily Buck, she definitely is one person I've noticed that's a very big advocate. She just, I guess how she puts it, like she kind of like will say how it is, and she'll post that stuff on Twitter, and it's like, dang, kudos to her, but she's experienced stuff being at Telltales for her, and I think it's great to hear from her and hear like Tanya the Pass as a streamer, and she kind of talks about some stuff. And
I actually talked to her once. This is back when I was working for a publication. 3 or 4 months I was the managing editor for a publication that covers like tech stuff in the DFW area, tech entrepreneurship. So that was around when all that stuff happened with Telltale. So I did a phone interview with Emily, and I was gonna like run a story about that just because like that affects everywhere, but the lady in charge decided not to run it, so I'm thinking I'm just gonna like stick it in my portfolio.
Well, I met her because I used to work at a company called Endless Entertainment. That was my first job ever in the game industry about over a year ago. Oh man, like going to the game industry from school, it's not as easy as people think. That's the one thing I would tell right now is if you go to school, yes, I think you have a stronger foundation than those that maybe had to learn on their own because they might not learn like the proper way to code. At least from my experience, what I've seen, I'm not saying people that learn on their own don't know how to code. Yes, they can code. The people that were taught have a stronger foundation that I've seen personally. But going to graduate and go into the game industry or go into any job is not easy because I think a lot of people expect like, okay, I have this degree, now give me the job. That's not how this works.
It really isn't. Otherwise, I wouldn't be at retail right now.
Yeah, pretty much. I had like right after grad school, I thought I had this job at a virtual reality company at River Studios. I ran into the CEO and her kids on the train, and I told her about my game. It was by accident. I was actually going to a virtual reality meetup, and she was there with the kids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is her on the train. I thought that was so cool. And I told her what I really want to do. I told her that I'm going to graduate, and she wanted to interview me, and I said, okay. So I go to this interview, and I was super stoked for it, and she's, I'm not going to say her name and stuff just for out of respect, because, I think she is a great developer. But what happened, I didn't like next. So she tells me, like, I pretty much have the job. And I said, are you sure? She's like, yes, you do have the job. You have like this contract for like 6 months. I said, okay, that's great. Where's the paperwork, to sign? Because in school, like when I was taught by MJ, and he kind of said, like, you want to make sure you sign it, otherwise you're not really hired. And she told me that, oh, it's like, okay, we'll give it to you next week, the paperwork. Next week rolls by, and I messaged them. I said, oh, hey, I'm ready to sign the paperwork to start. And like, oh, no, we're not ready. Just give us another month. And now a month passed. No, clearly I have only 3 months left in school, and I'm gonna get a little worried. I didn't look for any other jobs because I don't think she really wanted me to. She understood. It's like, okay, yeah, if I have the job, why would I keep looking?
Backup plan.
But another math, yeah, and she kept pushing it back, and it came to the point where I told her, it's like, look, it's like, am I gonna sign this papers or not? I'm very hungry. I have to pay rent, because I was very stressed. Some of my classmates in grad school, they live in the Bay Area. They can live with their parents, right, or a family member that can pay for their rent and stuff. I did not have that. Like I said, my family cannot really be giving me rent money. That's for them to pay for their own housing. I had to figure out a way, and to me, I felt like if I have to move back to my parents' house, I feel like that's the end of my game industry career, because I'd be out of the Bay Area. I would not be in the number one place for games. And when I messaged River Studios back, they never responded back to me, and I pretty much got ghosted. That made me really worried. And I went to MJ and I told him like kind of what happened. I said, I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, sometimes you can't depend on others like that. And, that's unfortunate you had to experience that. But, time to look for other jobs. And I said, okay, you're right. But at that time, I was about to graduate, and I was worried about rent. So I literally went on that same day to McDonald's near the school, and I asked them if I can have a job. And they gave me a job at McDonald's, because I just told myself, like, do I want to work at McDonald's? No. But do I want to work in video games? And do I want to stay in the number one place that has game development? Yes. And so I did what I had to do. I did night shifts. During the night, I worked at McDonald's. And then during the daytime, I worked on my virtual reality game, and I would apply, and I started streaming. I felt very, what's the word? I don't want to say not confident, but kind of like let down. I felt like, I went through all this hard work. I did so much. I just worked so hard to get to this point. I'm like, am I really not going to get in this industry? Am I really not going to do this? I just kept forcing myself to go to these events. And then I actually met up with the person it was at River Studios, because I went to a Ventures Capital thing. I would think it was a Ventures investment at the giant stadiums in San Francisco, and we took our VR game there, because I'm like, let's just try something, right? And I saw her, and I kind of asked her about the job. I was like, hey, what happened? I didn't hear from you. And she said she felt bad that she couldn't tell me that they didn't have any more funding for me. So she just didn't tell me. And if I look at her point of view, I understand, right? You don't want to let someone down. You feel bad because you promised them something.
I'm like, I kind of get it, but in that situation, tell people it's better to be open and honest than leave them sitting there wondering the entire time, because that can put people in really rough situations.
Yeah, it was, right? God, it was really tough. Now, but I don't hold any hard feelings on her. If it was her choice, I know she would have hired me. It was the company she worked at made bad decisions, I believe. So her personally, I know she really wanted to, but she wasn't in charge of the money. The person in charge of the studio was. And I don't know where they are. I don't know if River Studios is still a thing. So maybe I got lucky. I don't know. So while I was working at McDonald's, I still went to the ball games meetup, right? I was still trying to get involved, because in my head, like, let me be involved with these groups. Let me try and go to these events, right? Let me feel like I'm still trying to get in this game industry, because I was going to do anything I can to do it. Now, I've always been good at networking. I've always enjoyed, I like connecting with people. And so I go to this meetup, and this one lady, she worked at High Fidelity, which is a virtual reality company, which was across where River Studio was on Folsom Street. And she kind of said, hey, do you want to have a contract work at our company? Kind of check it out, was like, sure. It was a VR company. So I went in there. It was a month contract. I'd go like twice a week. And I would go to the contract in San Francisco during the day. And then I have to rush on the Caltrain and walk from the Caltrain off Lawrence Street to go to my McDonald's job. So I'd sometimes work 2 jobs a day. And so I need to make sure I have rent money. I need to make sure I have more stuff on my resume if I'm going to apply. I even had an interview at EA as an assistant producer, and I was so excited, right? I knew people there, and I kind of asked, like, hey, can you pass my resume to them? Because as I've been told, it's better to give a warm resume versus a cold one. And what I mean by that is if you know someone that works at a company and you hand them your resume and say, like, hey, do you think your hiring person or whoever's in charge would like to look at my resume? And that person that works there will take the resume to that person in hand, right? Or email it to
Yeah.
them. And you're pretty much on top of the list out there, right? They're going to look at you before they look at a stranger's.
Always incredibly helpful because I had
Yeah.
that with, I was trying to get a job at BioWare, and
Oh, BioWare, I love that company.
I ended up getting turned down because I needed someone with a little more experience that could hit the ground running. But since I'd sent it to someone I knew there, I was able to get the feedback on my game writing sample.
Oh yeah,
which was actually really helpful, and it also helped because if I ever get a shot there, my friend there is their director of design.
nice. Yeah.
So he's the ultimate decision maker. I need to see how he's doing. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah. So at EA, I didn't get the job, but I definitely they did a phone interview with me, and they wanted me to come in person. And going in and getting jobs at those big companies aren't easy to get. And I remember I was exhausted, right? I did this huge long shift till 3 a.m, and I had to wake up and make sure to get ready for this EA interview. And I was exhausted, I didn't have a lot of money, so I had to Uber or take the train. And then I had to Uber back to my McDonald's work. And I didn't get the job, unfortunately. I think I was definitely their top 3 person. They were considering the HR person, the recruiter. He actually called me personally. He said that he was telling me that he's like, I don't normally call people, but he's like, I was really rooting for you. You had a really great personality. There are people that did like you, and they went with someone that interned the year before. So if that person didn't hire, right, if that person didn't apply, then I think I actually would have gotten the job. But
Hey, that's still pretty impressive. You got close.
yeah. So I'm still at McDonald's. I still work on this VR game. I'm very tired, and then I get a LinkedIn message from Stacy Mason. And Stacy Mason, I think, had done some work at Telltale Games, and she's a UC Santa Cruz alumni. And she messaged me right after I had this long shift at McDonald's, and I wake up from the message on LinkedIn. She's like, "Hey, are you still looking for a job in the game industry?"
Yes.
And I'm like, "Yes, yes, I am." And she's like, she's like, "There's this new mobile company called Endless Entertainment, and they're looking for some, entry level, especially a woman. Would you be interested?" I said, "Of course, of course." She's like, "Okay." She's like, "Let me introduce you to Zach Linton." And Zach Linton, he was the CTO of Endless Entertainment. He also worked at Telltale Games before. I don't know his position though at Telltale. Once him and I connect, he immediately contacts me and asks about the job. He's like, I'm looking for an assistant recruiter, right? Assistant HR recruiter, and someone that can also be kind of help out with around the office and other XYZ. Now, I didn't want to go in HR, but I've always been told that you might not always start in a job that you love in the beginning, no matter what career you do. And I'm thinking this okay, this could be the step into that open door. Here, I can open the door and start actually going through it and get into the game industry. So I said yes to it.
It is at least within a game company. It may not be the exact area you want to be, but you will be in the same building as the people who you want to be.
Yeah, I agree. It was great, and I started to do it. They did say they're based in Oakland. Now I'm in South Bay of the Bay Area, and Oakland's on East Bay. It's high north. It's a northeast, and I was gonna go to do this job no matter what. I went to McDonald's and said, "Hey, I'm giving my 1 week notice. I got a new job." And to be fair, some of those one person did admit that she didn't think I was actually gonna make it. She thought I was gonna come back to McDonald's because I saw her after I got into Endless, and I went to McDonald's because I got hungry and actually want to have a cookie. Actually, no, I think I didn't go to food. I actually went to pick up my last paycheck, and one of them did admit they didn't think I was going to make it. They thought I was actually going to come back to McDonald's, and I said, well, no. It's like, that's okay.
You're partially right.
Yeah.
It's not what you thought.
Yeah, it's like I'm not. It's like because the difference was working in the retail or any food industry was that was a job, not a career. And so
Exactly.
I also was kind of like the assistant to the CTO and the CEO and CO at times because they would ask me to make their meetings, and I would set up these meetings and these calls for them. And I met great people that used to be Telltale workers, like Juan Vaca and Mike Birch was. He didn't work at Telltales, I believe, but he was an alumni, and so I talked to him a lot and have advice. I met great people. Like Sarah was awesome. She was our QA manager at Endless, and it was always fun to talk to her and get advice. And she's just met these amazing people and veterans in the game industry.
Hmm?
Well, after we hired the HR manager there, they did let me go. And I didn't want to hold any hard feelings because I understood, like, yeah, it kind of sucked because now I'm out of the job again. It's been like 9 months at Endless at this startup company, and I really want to not be an HR person anymore because I was here looking for people then to hire. But I wanted to be on the other end. Like, I wanted someone to come look for me and hire me. And so when I got laid off, it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. The CEO was actually very nice. Well, they all were really nice. Like Endless, like the people there I thought was really great. They're very kind. They really want to make sure I was well. So the CEO called me up on Zoom and he wanted to make sure if I was okay. And I did ask for a severance package, so they did give me 2 weeks. But the CEO was like, well, he's like, I want to make sure you're okay, so I'm gonna give you a little bit extra money. So he gave me like I think a little bit like $800 more just to be safe to make sure I was okay.
Oh, that's
And I thought that was
nice.
very kind. He didn't have to.
Last time I got I got a week's pay and I was making minimum wage.
Yeah, right. So Endless, unfortunately, I think they went under because they were funded by NBCU, and NBCU, if you heard publicly, they cut the funds to all their projects, which included the gaming industry area. So I felt really bad for Endless.
Super rough.
So here I am now again. Even though I can try and use a severance pay, I think I went on unemployment because some of my coworkers at Endless said they went through it and they told me what to do. And I didn't want to be in this situation forever. And so one of my friends, he was a former classmate in my grad program and he worked at Toys for Bob. He kind of mentioned, he's like, do you want to try Twitch streaming? You know, it's like, you're pretty good at it. He thought, and I got kind of nervous. I haven't Twitch streamed since school, right? And I'm like, I don't know, would I even be good at it? He thought I had a pretty good personality for it, and I decided to give it a shot. And I tried some on the PC. He even let me borrow his PS4 in some games. And my friend Rayjo, he works at a mobile company right now in Berkeley for games. I forgot what the company's called though. He actually let me borrow Horizon Zero Dawn. So my first Twitch streaming game was Horizon Zero Dawn, and that game was amazing. But that game also opened up to me that there are people that would just come watch me, right? They wanted to enjoy watching me play Horizon Zero Dawn while I got to explore stories with others. And I never really got to experience Twitch streaming like that, like I did with the Tornado Tower game. Because Tornado Tower, I made it feel like a guest and host type of style. There were times I did Twitch stream at school and I was making the game, and that was last like 8 hours, but it wasn't very often. But when I would Twitch stream now, I feel like I'm kind of like with friends. Right? There are people that will keep coming to my streams a lot. Like I have good followers. Like they're really awesome. It's a small base, but I hope it does grow more. There's streamers known as Zunok, Davis, X Spoken Galaxy, Raccoon Buffoon, and there's also others. I can't remember their usernames all the time, but it's our like Diana Moon. They would come into my streams and they just wanted to really support me, and they just loved watching me play these games and experience them. And I got to experience it with them, and it was just so much fun. So ever since then, because of my former classmate, I decided to keep playing them. I keep streaming, and I feel like I became a Twitch affiliate, and that really helped. Now at this time, it's been like 2 or 3 months now, and I'm still on unemployment. I'm still trying to apply to games industry. And then, because I'm exhausted, I remember I was tired, and then I decided to go to this mixer for Game Dev Drink Up that's held by Warren Price. I think Warren works at Ubisoft, and
stay tuned next week to get the rest of Kelsey's story.
An Incomplete Guide to World Domination is directed and produced by Brianna Toiber as part of Pseudonym Social, a creative podcast network. Music is by Patrick Chester of Chester Studios. You can find more of his work at chesterstudios.net. If you would like to help support our show, you can find us at patreon.com/pseudonymsocial. You can also leave a review on iTunes to make our show easier to find for those who need it. For more information on the other shows produced by Pseudonym Social, please check out our website at pseudonymsocial.wordpress.com.